Are you having trouble planning out your world champion's reign in your universe mode? Well, I have quick and easy tips to instantly create rivalries and contenders to make your universe mode a million times more fun, so let's hop into it. The first tip is actually pretty simple, and it's just knowing how to utilize your divisions. What you should do is split your division into two different groups, your top tier threats, and then your underdog contenders. Think of Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, and John Cena as your top title threats, while superstars like Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, and Finn Balor are going to be considered your underdogs. Generally, you want to alternate having title feuds between top tier threats and then your underdog contenders, as this really allows you to have those highly anticipated matchups versus the top tier threats, while also giving the underdogs PLE time, big weekly show time, as it really continues to show that they're just as worthy of a title match as your top tier threats, even if it's unlikely that they're going to end up winning the title. Your champion should really be facing the biggest top tier title threats at the biggest PLEs, and then occasionally at the B-level PLEs when it's really important to push a certain storyline. When it comes to your world champions facing the underdog contenders, they should typically be facing them at the B-level PLEs, so you can make sure that you save your biggest star-studded matchups for those biggest PLEs, but in some cases, a big underdog overcoming a top-tier star like Jey Uso versus Gunther at Mania can really work for an A-level PLE match to change things up a little bit. You also want to have an idea for how long each champion is going to hold their title for. You don't need to have an exact timeline, but a rough estimate can help you really build and plan out your future champions that you want to have potentially hold on to the title in the next coming months or year. So think about, is your main event scene really focused on just one man or woman who will hold the world title for over a year, like Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, Rhea Ripley? Or is there a large amount of talent that you really want to put over in the span of a year? So there's going to be many short reigns with the world title being passed around, like how Jey won it, then quickly gave it back to Gunther, who then gave it to CM Punk for 5 minutes before Seth Rollins got it. Think about that. When booking your world title rivalries, it shouldn't be booked the same way as a mid-card title rivalry or two contenders in a rivalry. Your world champion should feel like the biggest attraction, so you want to make sure you're booked like one. So the easiest way to do this is pretty simple, and it's to rarely put them in matches outside of PLEs. You want to focus on them doing promos using rivalry actions to do most of the work. The post-match stare-down rivalry action is a great one to use for faces or heels. Then for just heels, using all the distractions, attacks, ambushes, and brawls, they really work great whether you use it for your heel champion on your face challenger or to book your heel challenger on your face champion. In some rare cases, you can book your world champion in a title match on your weekly show, but only if it really makes sense for your story. You can also try and book them in 2v2 or 3v3 tag matches if they have allies or a faction, if you're trying to really integrate his or her allies or faction into that world title story. The next tips is revolving around building contenders. So building up faces and heels for your world title scene should be handled pretty differently, as they have vastly different paths to winning the world title and moving up the ranks. So starting with the faces will typically win a title in one of 4 different ways. The first way is typically winning it from after a long chase. Think of Daniel Bryan overcoming the Authority and winning it at WrestleMania after being overlooked for so long. Or you think about Cody Rhodes chasing the WWE title that his father just could never get. As a side note though, just because you build a superstar up to great heights with this big chase, it doesn't mean they actually need to end up being successful in their chase. Remember, Cody Rhodes lost his first opportunity at the WWE title at WrestleMania, but even if we lived in an alternate universe where Cody still never won the title just a year later, the chase still would have made for great captivating stories. So while the chase and build is fun, the real story can actually be that your world champion is just too dominant, and no matter how much a face builds themselves up, the captivating chase, it doesn't matter in the end, the champion's just too good. So your second way you can build up a face is just having them be undeniable. You know, some faces have this undeniable gimmick or personality that really the fans get behind, like a Jeff Hardy and LA Knight. This led opportunities for world titles for Jeff Hardy, got the chance to be WWE champion, while LA Knight, he was able to quickly get a shot at Roman Reigns after getting out of the main roster. But, he couldn't come away with the title. She ultimately led him to the US title, but then after losing it, he immediately is once again, right now, back into the world title picture, which goes to show how undeniable he is, and that when someone's undeniable, he or she should continuously be put into the title picture. And in these cases, it's clear that some massive chase for a title isn't necessary for people who are just undeniable. The third way also ties into the fourth way a little bit is between Money in the Bank and King Queen of the Ring. So for Money in the Bank, The briefcase can be booked as an easy title change from a cheap shot cash-in, but with faces over the years, they seem to not take that route. It's more of like, John Cena, how he won it and then told CM Punk, this is what I'm going to cash in. So this can be a great way to set up a main event of a weekly show or make for a crazy PLE moment as a champion. They'll preemptively announce their cash-in, which could create a PLE main event out of nowhere or make themselves an addition to an already scheduled PLE match, causing it to become a triple threat match before it even starts. Then for the King and Queen of the Ring side, now that it's back in universe mode, you can really use to easily push a top title threat into a huge SummerSlam match against your world champion by having them run the gauntlet of the King and Queen of the Ring tournament. You can also go in the direction of building up an underdog of the main event scene, kind of like how Nia Jax last year won it, to really tell that story of a superstar's resurgence into the world title scene and giving them a big match at A-level PLE in a little bit of a different way than you saw the underdog story of Jay and Gunther at WrestleMania. Heels are a little bit different. They have 1 to 3 different ways to really have a path for a title. The first one being they really climb the ranks to a world championship by using the dirty tactics to beat other contenders. It helps when they have a faction behind them. They really gain that title opportunity. Think about how Finn Balor, when he was with the Judgment Day, the OG Judgment Day, obviously, he ultimately failed to get it off of Seth Rollins. But remember, after Seth Rollins won it, he kept going PLE after PLE trying to take it off him. And, heels don't necessarily need a faction or allies for help. This isn't really the world title picture, but as an example, Shinsuke Nakamura, when he went after the US title from LA Knight, he used dirty heel tactics to really win it, and you can really do that with the world title as well, but just that example is for the US title. So when you plan to have a heel really turn into a world title contender, make sure to have them feel like a heel using those rivalry actions with distractions, attacks, and brawls. The second way is Money in the Bank. Obviously, we talked about how faces do it, but the heels are pretty different. They'll use cheap tactics. They will interrupt a match after a match, cause a DQ, those kinds of things, then hit their opponent with the briefcase, take that, heelish opportunity to steal the world title. So that's how you want to do it instead of the, I'm going to tell you it beforehand like a face would. And then King and Queen of the Ring, it's the last third way. It's the same way as the face ultimately. You earned an opportunity, so no really heel tactics, but really in the build, you want to use heel tactics leading up to the match rather than to gain the match itself. So outside of those typical ways faces and heels are really built up to be world title contenders, there are still the simple ways of having number one contender matches and tournaments to really decide who's going to be next up for the world title, but those are just average typical ways for maybe built for B-level PLEs. So you can use those as well, don't get me wrong, they're nice to have. Another thing I want to talk about is how champions really evolve. So all superstars have to evolve over time, as they may totally change their gimmick, while others just make small changes over time to really further push their character to new heights. So for this video, we're just taking a look at some small changes, as characters won't really change gimmicks during their reign, but aspects of their character really could change with the story they tell. So one way a heel, for example, can evolve is going from dirty tricks to more of aggressive attacks, really showing that the cheap ways aren't for them anymore. Maybe they're growing, a little paranoid about their titles, so they want to go with attacks to help try and keep it. And for face champions, an example to evolve as well can be maybe a dominant champion with a long reign can get cockier over time, and this leads them to actually costing themselves the title because they went from this beloved face to getting cockier and losing it. So this can even end up having a massive payoff, or after the loss, you get a huge heel turn out of it. And there's many other ways characters can evolve as world champions, but there's a couple of examples to give you an idea of what to really kind of expect. Now that I've walked you through some tips and some mindsets about booking your world champions and their rivalries, I'm going to show you how to easily put together all these tips with a couple of quick example storylines. Our first storyline begins at a PLE where a face finally captures a world title after a long chase, and the fans are ecstatic to find out who his or her first feud will be against, and they would soon find out, as the week after the PLE, the new world title holder, the new face champion, was preparing to come out for a promo, but two members of a heel faction would attack him or her backstage before they can come out to the ring. The following week, the main single stars of this heel faction would come out for a promo, calling out the champion and saying that their reign will only be defined as a transitional championship to hand over the title to him or her. The face would then come out to confront the new heel challenger, but the heel quickly attacks your new champion. Then the week after, the new face champion takes on one of the heel faction members, and even though there were lots of ringside distractions, the face champion would still walk away with the win. Now a week out from our PLE, the heel faction once again attacks the face champion backstage, this time in response to the champion's win in the prior week. Thinking they got the last blow, the heel faction let their guard down the rest of the night. This allowed the show to end with the face champion getting their chance to attack the heel star all alone backstage ahead of their world title fight. And at the upcoming PLE, the face champion and the heel contender meet for the world title match.